Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Rhyme of the Times for the weekend in 22nd of February 2025. The world is starting to twitch as Trump seems bewitched by Russia's tyrant titch, and it's hard to tell which is which as he spouts the Kremlin pitch and seems prepared to let Ukraine die in a ditch. The Gaza ceasefire encounters a glitch as Hamas queer the pitch with a hostage body switch. Will Bond fans reach for the off switch as the British spy makes an audacious switch? The world still reels, wondering if it's really real, the way the new global dynamics now feel. Can the cracks in the Western alliance heal, or at least from the Kremlin be concealed? And if Trump seals the deal that he thinks he can seal, will it achieve a just end to Ukraine's ordeal? And as events unfolded throughout the week, the outlook became increasingly bleak. On Sunday, Starmer spoke of boots on the ground to protect any ceasefire that might be found. Next day in Paris, leaders from the West weren't overly impressed, lukewarm at best. On the same day in Saudi, a US government team met members of the Russian mafia regime, and going by the way that they all got along, it's unclear which side the US is on. Meanwhile in Paris, world leaders came and went with a flea in their ear over the low percent of their individual GDP that's being spent in order to ensure NATO can prevent the Kremlin coward with his evil intent from bringing the old Eastern Bloc back inside his tent. USSR's demise he continues to lament, and he wants it back with or without consent. With Trump once more in charge of matters, the rules-based world order is already in tatters. He's no longer willing for America to pay to keep Europe safe and Russia at bay. And despite some of the daft things Trump might say, he probably has a point at the end of the day. His praise for Putin may fill many with dismay, but Europe not paying their way is just not okay. Trump sees China as the main threat to the US, so thinks there's no point in funding Europe's mess. America comes first, he has constantly opined. For him, Europe's out of sight and out of mind. Out of mind or out of his mind, we ask, pandering to the bear while taking Europe to task. For the rest of the week, what came out of Trump's mouth caused Ukrainian hopes to head further south. His plan for peace, for bombs and bullets to cease, seemed to amount to him being Kremlin's mouthpiece, repeating Moscow's propaganda tropes to hammer away at Ukrainian hopes, switching sides and now on the team of Putin. At Ukraine's goal, USA and Russia are shooting. Loyal to his new teammates, a Zelensky hater, calling Ukraine's leader an unpopular dictator, and how the bear roared when Trump again scored by claiming it was Ukraine that started this war. The US National Security Advisor seems less hostile than Trump, perhaps wiser, and on Thursday he entered the world stage right, arriving in Kyiv on a diplomatic flight. For Zelensky, in many people's eyes, Michael Waltz was a sort of consolation prize, crumbs for Ukraine's head of state after he had been excluded from Tuesday's summit in Riyadh. Waltz had some warm words after their meeting, but the warm vibes for Zelensky were only fleeting, because for some reason somebody ruled that the press conference at the end had to be pulled. Presumably the messaging wasn't in line with what the White House wanted to put out at that time. After 15.5 months of bombs and bloodshed, a shed load of blood and 50,000 plus dead, In January, Gaza finally found fragile peace as upon the world Trump 2.0 was released. Both sides agreed a truce under much duress, but somehow it has survived nonetheless. On both sides there's still ill will, no goodwill, but by a thread the ceasefire is surviving still. That thread that holds the peace together, however, was closer this week than ever to being severed. The 4 hostages on Thursday that were released were delivered in coffins, resting in peace. Although loved ones already knew they were deceased, their deep anguish and pain could not be ceased. Tears flowed, anger burned, hearts fractured, stomachs churned, as Hamas had the 4 bodies returned. An 83-year-old man was handed over. His wife had been released alive last October. The other 3 were Shiri Bibas, a young mother, her 4-year-old son and his baby brother. As always, the handover was gruesome and grim, Hamas making a show amidst chaos and a din. And with more distaste, the next days were filled with disputes about how the old man was killed. Israel claim he was murdered, but Hamas's retort is that he was killed in an Israeli bombing assault. Meanwhile, it turned out that Shiri's coffin contained some other unknown Gazan woman's remains. Hamas then corrected what they said was an error, or maybe it was just another warped act of terror. The news has been pretty heavy lately, so here are 2 showbiz stories less weighty. This week 5 special episodes were aired on TV of The Affairs of Albert Square on BBC, with a special hour-long live show on Thursday to celebrate EastEnders' 40th birthday. On the same day, some movie news occurred. Amazon have captured James Bond, we heard, leaving many Bond fans both shaken and stirred.